Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Microsoft 365 Business Boost Show. I am one half of your host, Thurman Trotman. I got my guy Nick DeCourcy here. Nick, what's going on?
Hi, Thurman. Hi, everyone.
All right. Listen, so this week, uh, I wanted to. Well, actually, Nick, you want to bring something to the
Well, yeah.
audience's
It's something we've
attention.
discussed before, but I do think it's relevant, and it makes sense to keep coming back to this every so often because
I
I had
agree.
I had an interesting incident occur this week.
Hmm.
I have been trying to find a freelancer to do a little bit of work for me with something, and that's a whole thing on itself. I won't go into that, but in the process of doing this, I had some wonderful meetings with some great people who could offer these services. And as you do, you say, "Hey, can you send me some examples of your work?" Right? That's a pretty common thing. And one of these people sent me a set of links, and it all looked great until I dug into the content that was inside these folders that they'd sent me. And right in there was all of the private information related to the clients that were associated with those examples. And I was like, wow, okay, that's no good. So I let them know that they had done this, and then they
Right.
sent me a message apologizing. Like, I've reset all the logins, etc., etc., etc. And obviously, I'm like, well, unfortunately, I can't really work with you because that was a pretty egregious problem that you just demonstrated to me.
Right.
But it just goes to show that you need to be sure of the people that you're working with. Like we live in a world where it's possible to hire people who aren't physically with you every day. They're not physically using your devices. There are lots of potential things that could go wrong, and it makes me think back to, you remember we had Jesse Kegley on the show.
Mhm.
It must have been a year or so ago now, where he was talking about the security of your managed services provider. But it goes beyond that. It goes into the security of people that you've got doing different jobs for you, whether it's a graphic designer or a social media person or something like that. If anyone's got access to your information, then that information is only really as secure as the weakest link, right?
Yeah, you're right. The you know what's crazy about this is just this week, like I had to make a run for my kid and her friends. And I mean, I had to drive them to the beach basically. And it's her and two of her friends.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking to myself, like, because I've had to do something like this before, and other parents have had to do it with my kids before too. And I was like, man, you have no idea. Like when you say, "Hey, okay, you can take the kids to the beach," you have no idea what kind of driver I am. Like this
Yeah.
is completely out of your hand. You don't know if I am one of those people that like to speed. I'm not gonna enforce seatbelts. I text a lot while I'm driving, or I have a terrible driving record. Like, how are you supposed to know? You're just,
Mm-hmm.
putting the trust of
You're just like, Thurman
essentially.
looks like a trustworthy guy.
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
on. Go on,
yeah. Let
go
let
go
them
go
let them
go
drive.
drive them.
Yeah, yeah. You're putting the safety of your kids in my hands. You're basically gambling, and I'm doing the
Yeah,
same thing when I say, "Hey, yeah, this person can drive my kid somewhere." Right? It's this thing that makes it feel like you can't do much unless you are pushy. So if I go
yep,
to this person that's about to drive my kid, a few states away, let's say, for some type of school thing. Can I go up to this person and say, "Hey, let me see what your driving record looks like," or, when was the last time you got a ticket? What for? I can. I'm sure I
I
can.
mean, you could,
Uh,
yeah.
it'll get a little awkward, you know what I'm saying? But hey, the reason I'm doing it is because I'm worried about
Mm-hmm.
the safety of my kid, and I have no idea how you drive. The same thing with your MSPs, except you actually have a little bit more. Uh, you're a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for? Justified. You're a little more justified if you do a little bit
Mm-hmm.
of pressing to
Yeah, it
say,
feels like it's more justified because it's more in that realm, right? Like,
Yes,
I
it's
think
in
that's
that
the
world.
thing. Like the whole conversation is more in that realm. Whereas with the
Mhm.
parent that you're talking to, like the whole conversation isn't about like the journey; it's about the destination, right? You're taking the kids to the amusement park or to the
Mhm.
beach or whatever. So dwelling on, well, how are you going to get there? Like, when did you last service your car? Like, all these kinds of things. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like the right thing. But with an MSP, it's like, well, your job is kind of to secure my stuff, right? Like,
Right.
that's why I'm getting you, to make sure it works. So it makes sense to ask you about all this stuff in the same way that if you're hiring, I don't know, like a cleaner to come in and do some stuff around your house, like having a really long conversation about how they like secure your keys or like the code to get in your door, like maybe that doesn't feel so right within that transaction.
Right. Yeah. Well, with the MSP, it's
Yeah.
definitely, let's say, expected. It's understandable. It's all these things where you can press your MSP. As a matter of fact, I think it's like a lot of in the government
Mm,
contractors have to, what's going to be enforced. They have to they have to manage their cybersecurity posture.
yep.
And with the
Yep.
DoD has what's called CMMC, and CMMC is based off of a higher standard of, cybersecurity controls that you have to manage and all this other stuff, right? They are trying to put it in the hands of the end user to
Mm,
manage their cybersecurity posture to the point where if you get audited, you can pass an audit. And I'm
mm,
talking about these things are super detailed. Like, what does your facility look like? If you're not using a facility, who has access to your stuff? What passwords do they use? When was the last time you changed your password? What training have you given your employees? It's like really, really detailed. And so it's a thing where as we move into a world where almost everything is going to be based in technology, you have to
mm,
have a layman's way of managing your stuff so that you could at least speak the same language when you talk to one of these MSPs. And you say,
mm,
hey, when was the last time you've been audited? MSP,
mm, mm.
how'd you do? What are you managing your security posture? Because for someone to email you the login information for their other clients, it's that
Yep.
signals for you to get up
It
and
should
run away.
never. And to be fair, this wasn't an MSP. So I mean, the question then comes, like, when it
Yeah.
gets outside of that kind of relationship. Like, I think this is the key thing, that, like, I think a lot of people do think about these kinds of issues when it comes to those kind of like IT centric relationships, right? But you're
Mhm.
entirely right that everything is on the computer now. You know, like it's all connected, it's all remote, etc., etc., and you've got to have strength in all of these links. So how do you achieve that? Like, if you're an independent consultant, or you've got an independent business, or you're a small business, how do you actually achieve that? And what should you think about? What should that conversation look like? What should the safeguards look like?
It's got to be easy.
Yeah,
I think it has to be. So let's say, for instance, I know this is not secure, but when you get ready to create a password for something that you're logging
yeah,
into,
yeah,
it'll prompt you and say, "Here's a secure password that you might want to use. Do you want to
yeah.
use it?" So two things that I find shaky with this is like your system suggested it to me. So I don't like that. I'm saying that your system created the password. While that, and it should be, and I'm assuming it is random. It just feels like, well, if
Do
you
you
know
mean
the password,
you're talking about the password managers when they do this for you?
yeah, like let's
Yeah,
say
yeah,
Google. Like Google
yeah,
will suggest a password, a strong password to you, right? So
yeah.
that's one. And then number two is when you save it in the browser, if you have your browser save it, it's easy to get to that information with
Mm,
your browser
mm.
having it saved. So it's like if someone gets access to your computer.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
um this that kind of thing makes it easy, but making it easy is the one piece, making it also secure is the other piece. It needs to
Well,
be easy and secure.
I think that's the key thing. And I mean, some of it comes down to what technology do you choose to use, right? So,
Mhm,
like,
mhm,
say you are a small business owner and you're deciding we're gonna roll out AI, right? So maybe you don't want Microsoft 365 Copilot. Maybe you want something that's cheaper than that. So you look
mhm,
at I could get ChatGPT Plus. That's
mhm.
cheaper. I can get Copilot Pro. That's cheaper. I even saw a video someone in our community say Copilot Pro is a great thing for small businesses this week, and I was like, wow, let's just talk about that for a moment because, like, unless you're a business of one, let's just think about that for a moment because what you are losing with not paying the additional $5 or $10 it might be a month is that kind of business level control over that app. There are certain things that are designed for individuals where your relationship is with the provider, and there are certain
Mhm.
things that are designed for businesses where you could have a group of users and their relationship is with your business, and then your business has a relationship with that provider. And I would
Correct.
always recommend whatever it is, whatever service it is that you're buying. Like if you are running a business where you have more than one person, or you are likely to have more than one person who is working on behalf of your business who needs access to that stuff, then you have to buy the version that can be scaled in terms of the seats that you can have so that you have control over that relationship. And whether
Yeah.
that's Microsoft 365 or ChatGPT or password managers or whatever it might be, go for that upgraded version, go for the one that's a little bit more expensive because it puts you in control of all of that data and what's going on in that system.
Yeah, this is one of them things where if you can do that, then you
Mm,
should. The reason why is because um I like to think about it like eating other people's food, right?
mm,
It is it is very normal for you to, or at least for me, when I get ready to make food, I wash my hands. If I touch raw meat while I'm cooking the food, I wash my hands. If I am getting ready to use a surface, I clean the surface. Then I do my stuff. Like there's all these things that just come like second nature to me that I
mm,
just do.
mm.
All you see is the prepared finished food. Unless you
Yep.
live in my house, you don't know how I prepared it. Same thing with other people. I don't know what cleanliness or what habits you have when you cook that food. I have no idea. It's the same thing with when someone comes to work. You don't know if this person works in your business is someone who stays on top of their security. You
Mm,
don't know. All you know is about all you know about are when something bad happens, because you're not going to get a report every day like, hey, this person practiced really good cybersecurity. It's a really good security. They took good security measures today. You don't get a report like that. What you do get is when something is violated, when something goes wrong, and
mm,
now that
mm.
speaks for the person's behavior. For instance, sending a link or
Yep.
folder filled with a bunch of other people's logins information. I don't know how well you were doing before then, but this speaks volumes for you. Where in on the normal circumstances, I think the other way. I'm like, yo, your body of work speaks for you, and
Mm.
so on a regular basis, you're good to go. And sometimes people make mistakes, but
So,
there's
so
certain kinds of
that's a
mistakes.
good point. That's a good point. So, am I in the wrong there? But tell me this. Like, I look at that and I say, okay, I'm going to pass this information along to the person who made this mistake. I'm going to say you should correct this, and they told me
Mhm,
they did correct it. But
mhm,
then my next step is to say, well, actually, I'm not taking the risk. I'm not rolling the dice. You have shown me that you don't protect this stuff,
mhm.
and I am not going to work with you. But is that the wrong perspective? Like, have I taken the opportunity to educate that person about how they should deal with that kind of information
You
within their
did.
business? And is that good enough? Should I then say, okay, well, we've reset now. You made a mistake. Everyone makes mistakes. We all make mistakes from time to time, and
Mhm.
therefore you've said you're correcting this, and I can move forward, and you're still on the list of potential candidates for this work. Do you think I was too harsh?
No, I don't think you were too harsh because in the case of the kids in the driving, if you get into this accident, I'm never ever letting my kid get back in that car ever again. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully everybody's fine, everybody steps away unscathed, but no, you know what I'm saying? No hard feelings, but you made a decision on the road. If it was your fault, you made a decision on the road that caused a accident with you and a bunch of other people's kids, mine included. I am now making a decision to be like, this is a risk that I am able to manage, and I'm just cutting it out. I'm not going to do it. So with
mm,
this
mm.
person who sent the names and usernames and passwords, what you're saying to me is that you have the propensity to possibly do this again,
Mm.
and no hard feelings. But I don't want to take the risk, especially since it's not just me taking the risk; it's me taking the risk on behalf of customers that you might interface with through me. So I can't. I don't think it's harsh. I don't think it's harsh. In other walks of life, I would be like, yo, we all make mistakes. It's fine. You know what I'm saying? Little bump in the road here. If someone who I love and care for got a job and they were working and they made a big mistake, I'd still tell them, look, don't worry about it. It's okay, man. You know, we all make mistakes. But on the other end, I know that company is gonna be like, no, no more. You know what I'm saying? Like it's too risky. At least with our community of or our generation
Oh,
of
yeah.
people. I don't know about as the generations get younger, how much they really care about security. I don't know.
Well, I
I,
think as employees or as business owners, they have to
mm-hmm,
care about security because you're taking on risk on behalf of someone else, right? Like if you
mm-hmm,
choose to take your personal details and just spread them around the internet, that's on you.
mm-hmm.
But if it's your business's stuff, whatever that may be, then you have to be on top of that. And so, certainly that's my perspective. Now, in terms of like what advice could you offer to someone? You know, how do you get on top of all this stuff? Like we've talked about password managers, right? So that's one thing that you could do, right? I think that's really important. Like if you're sharing anything along these lines with anyone, then there are securer ways of doing it. But ultimately, a lot of this stuff comes back to trust, right? You have to trust the people that you're interfacing with and you're doing business with.
Well, not just trust, but because trust could be earned without any proof. You know what I'm saying? You
Mm,
can earn
mm,
trust without any concrete evidence because people just give you a vibe that they can be trusted. You need a little bit more than that. So you need the trust, but you need to trust with some evidence. For instance, if you can this process with this CMMC and this auditing, right?
mm, mm,
If you can go through your CMMC audit and pass, that signals to someone else you got your stuff together. You know what I'm saying? Because the process is rigorous and it's super detailed. And the one I'm talking about is level 2. Level 3 is even more. So if you go through level 2 and you pass, if your MSP goes through level 2 and passes and can prove that they pass, that should set off some bells that says, you know what? Yeah, this person, I can trust them with their, but I can lower I can think that my risk is not as high as going with another provider if I go with this provider who has passed a certain kind of audit. I'm speaking about CMMC, but there's all kinds out there. I think that's where you need to be because you can trust them if they've shown you that they know a certain kind of work and they can do certain work for you and deliver.
mm,
But there's always a separate thing, which is security, and that's attached to the work that they do.
mm,
So
mm, mm,
if you work in construction, you hire somebody to, install some new software for you to use. They can install the software. That's one. But a second piece to that is what do they know about the security of this software? And what
mm.
does it mean for them putting it on your computers and letting your office use it and all that other stuff? That's a pretty big deal. So I'm like, what should work is a proof of audit that you can manage this information for yourself and for the company. That's all I got. I can't think of
Yeah,
anything else.
well, and contractual obligations as well. I think that's also important, particularly if you're working with a provider that might have multiple people working on with you. Then contractual
Oh,
obligations around background checks and stuff like that. That's going to be
mhm,
important as well. So I think it's multi-layered. You're right. You need to have the right agreement in place. You need to have the right audit trail in place to show whatever compliance you need, and then you need the right technology that supports that. And if you can get all
mhm.
those three things hand in hand, you're never going to be 100% safe. but you're going to
Correct.
be a lot safer than just kind of blanket trusting whoever comes to you that they can do whatever it is. And I do
Right.
think right now, with the risks that are out there, it's right to ask any provider about this. If you're going to be sharing any type of data or any information with people, then you need to be on top of what could be the downsides of doing that, what could be the risks.
Yeah, and Nick, they need to make things like this more transparent. Like, there's people who put out content. There's people putting out content from all different kinds of realms. It would be excellent to be in cybersecurity putting out content that just makes this make sense for regular people. Because
Mm,
if you years ago heard that Verizon, uh, Target, Walmart, name them, have had a security breach, why would you not think, well, if they had it once, they could have it again? It's not that simple, but that's a possibility. It would be
mm,
great if someone in cybersecurity, this probably already exists, puts out regular, basic, understandable information to let you know what this whole science looks like what this whole
mm,
thing
mm,
looks like. Because all you see is the headline: Target has a breach. All your information is out there. Well, what does that mean? How
mm,
do you find
mm,
the person who did it? How do you secure going forward? How do you trace back to where it happened? Was it the company? Was it a person? Like, all of these things are very important information to know, that should be out there somewhere. You know what I'm saying? That people are putting out. And again, the reason being, the future is technology.
mm.
Pretty soon you're gonna have, matter of fact, not pretty soon, but today, you have a fridge. Your fridge has a tablet in it. You can hook your fridge up to the Wi-Fi. Your fridge needs to be secured because you have an ability to hook your fridge up to the flipping
It's
Wi-Fi because
connected.
you want to get
Everything's
your
connected. Yeah.
yeah, you want to get your weather.
I,
So since
I
you want to
think you're
connect your
right.
fridge to the Wi-Fi, secure it. You know what I'm saying? Secure your network.
You need a secure fridge. I mean, I think the thing is, Thurman, that it's not just for cybersecurity professionals. I think
Yeah,
everyone in the
yes.
tech space, everyone in the tech space, in the same way that you know that if someone's putting up a building, they have to comply with ADA to do that, right?
Mhm,
Like you
mhm.
know that, like that's a standard. Everyone in the construction industry is aware that, that standard needs to be met. If you're working
Mhm.
as an employer, then there are certain standards that you have to meet around that. It's not just the HR people who are responsible for that. It's everyone within the company, right? And I think
Right.
the same is true within technology. That all of us in the technology space need to start from the point of view of doing things in a secure way. And as I say, when I hear people say, "Hey, go and get yourself some Copilot Pro for your small business," I'm like, hang on a minute. Like, are you really thinking about what's going on here? Like, I know I've heard Microsoft say it as well, but just let's pause and think about what we're telling people to do here.
Right, right, right. The other day I was in a store with my daughter, and she's like, "Why do they sell eggs?" Because it was like a gas station or whatever. I was picking up something from the gas station, and they had the store. It was a Wawa, and she's like, "Why do they sell eggs?" And I'm like, "Because they can. You might need them one day." And she's like, "But this doesn't feel okay because it's not inside of a fridge with a certain temperature." And I'm like, okay, you may think that, but someone had to inspect this. You know what I'm saying? There's a standard that, wow, I just can't put eggs inside of a thing and be like, hey, yeah, we're selling eggs. There's a standard that they have to follow, and someone has to inspect and make sure that they can sell this food. This is a thing that is just known. And to your point about the putting up a building, same
Mm,
thing. You have to just, it's like you have to know those basic things, but then you also have to put certain things in practice. For instance, we all drive cars and we know you got to put on your seatbelt. You know what I mean? We know that you can't drive your tire you can't ride the tread so crazy because then you could, cause yourself an accident if you ride the tread and it busts a tire. Like, these are things that you got to know that, oh, my tire is too low. I need to go take it in. Or you take your car in for something else and they say, hey, here's these things you might want to look into. You know what I mean? And then you could decide if they're trying to swindle you or not. You know what I'm saying? But it's up to you to figure that out. Like, you have to take matters into your own hands, like changing your own password, not sticking it underneath your keyboard. not leaving your computer unsecure in a certain location where somebody could have stolen it. All these kinds of things. You just got to make sure that you have your things that you know and put into practice, which has to increase because everything is technology based. And then you have to let the professionals do the more difficult stuff. But you gotta take some stuff into your hands these days and going
Yeah.
forward.
I was really hoping that you were going to start that off by saying that your response was, well, how else would the chickens make any money? But then you went in a completely different direction.
No, no, no. I had to school her about the health department. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. I think it's very important that, especially the people that are young now that are gonna get older, they need to learn about this stuff. But again, Nick, if I'm being 100% transparent here, I think if you are born today and you see the world that you enter, by the time you become an adult, and let's say maybe even a business owner, how much do you care about security? What do you have lost your security from the time you entered the world? You give apps your information. You just use the Wi-Fi like it's nothing. You get sent information based off your data being in somebody's
Mm.
database that you don't even know about. Like all of these things is the world that you live in. So by the time you hit adulthood and now you want to, I don't know, start an email service, when you put that disclaimer on your email service, hey, we don't share your data, do you really mean that? Do you care about security, or do you not even put that disclaimer there
Well,
because you
you
think you're
know,
going to put that there?
maybe. Like, just think about where we are
Oh,
with tech. Just think about where we are with tech right now, right? So,
mm-mm.
imagine in 20 years' time, I have an AI assistant that's my AI assistant. We have to get onto AI. We haven't talked about AI yet. So, there's
All
my
right, good
AI
deal.
assistant that's got 20 years of context of working with me, right?
Mhm.
It's seen everything that I've said, everything that I've done for the last 20 years. That is my intermediary to the digital world, right?
Mhm.
You think I still need a password to prove
You
I
don't
am
need
who I say I am?
you don't need a password, but you need that thing needs to be secured. How do you secure it?
How do
How
you
do you
secure it? It
yeah,
knows me. How do I secure coming up to you, like person to person, in person, and I know you're Thurman and you know that I'm Nick? Like, it's entirely possible that your AI assistant becomes so sophisticated in its understanding of you that abstraction of we need some other kind of verification that you are the person you say you are just completely disappears. Like, the reason we need that right now is because the website that you go to is stupid. It doesn't know you. It only
yeah.
knows you because you're able to type your email address and your password. That's the only way it knows you. It doesn't have any context. It doesn't know who you are. Like, in the future, is that even going to be necessary? Or are we just going to have these devices that know who we are, that started to know us when we were children and are still there on the day we die and right the way through? We just have to talk to our AI and it knows you are the person that you should be.
Yeah, you're right. So I'm good, but the person who wants to hack into my what are we calling this robot? The person who wants to hack into my robot, how do I secure my robot against the hackers?
Well, that
I
person
have to
isn't
have a
you.
security layer
Why?
because I don't want you all up in my business. You said it knows everything I'm doing.
Yeah, but if we're gonna meet in person,
Uh-huh.
do you have to have a security layer around yourself to like secure? Like, if you're having a chat with a friend in person, right?
Uh-huh.
What's your
Uh-huh.
security layer? Your security layer is that you know that the person in front of you is the
is
person
safe.
that you want to talk to, right?
Right. Yeah.
You don't need a security layer.
Correct.
So when our AI companions become so sophisticated that they just know who we are, the whole idea of IT security disappears because the hacker isn't me. Like, if some so say you have a friend called Paul, right? And
Uh-huh.
like, he's your best friend. You chat with him every single day, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then some other dude who maybe looks a little bit like Paul and tries to act a little bit like Paul comes up to you face to face and says, "Hey, Thurman, you know that project we were working on that we've got that bank account for? Why don't you just give me the cards for that and I'll go and and you'd just say, "Be on your way," wouldn't you? That would
Yeah.
be that. That would be that
I
because you
use some
know it
other
isn't.
words.
You know that isn't Paul. You know that is like it just isn't going to work.
Right.
Right? And that's why all of this technology, where like grandma gets a call and it sounds like me or it looks like me or whatever, all of that is technology abstraction. If your child actually turned up in front of you, you would know who that person was.
But
So it
what if the grandmother gets a call? What if the grandmother has their bot and then someone hacks the bot and gets the
no one's
grandmother to do something through the bot?
no one's going to hack the bot
Who's not hacking the
because
bot?
it's gonna know who you are. These things are going to be smarter than us, Thurman. They're not going to
No,
get.
no, 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 no,
Like,
no.
you think that a human's gonna get in there? They're just
I
gonna be
don't
like,
like it.
oh, they're gonna be like, on your way, fake Paul. You're you're not my friend.
I don't like it, man. I don't like it.
I don't know.
Um,
It's kind of close to Terminator, but maybe that's the
it is.
case.
It is. It is. It's
But
definitely
I
close.
mean, I know in other topics you wanted to talk about how all of these AI companies now are charging people $250 a time for using some of their services.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they can't even detect whether you're the real Paul. So,
That's a
I
good
mean,
point.
why would you pay that kind of money?
Um, so some people are paying that kind of money because they want to create these cool looking videos. At least that's what they're doing over there with Google. What is it? VO? Google VO? I don't know.
VO3.
VO3. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're charging money now. But I read something where someone said, yeah, if it could really do what they said it could do, they'd be charging way more money for it. And I agree. And I think that the whole situation with OpenAI and all these other companies, they're saying that they're just bleeding money. It's not sustainable at this moment
Mm.
to collect the amount of money that they're collecting, but also provide the services they're providing. It's lopsided, and I'm wondering: is it so lopsided that these things are going to go out of business, or is it just going to have to be, you just operate at a loss, but a significant loss for a long period of time? I don't understand the significance of knowing that these companies are bleeding money, because I've heard in the past, for instance, Amazon. I don't know if it's the same thing, but I know
Mm.
Amazon, they say, operates at a loss. If
Well, I
it's
think it
normal,
did.
huh?
I think it did. I think for a long time Amazon didn't turn a profit at all.
Okay, well then, yeah, so that's my point. Is it so significant the amount of money that they're bleeding that it's different from what the Amazons of the world has done, which is bleed for a while until you're profitable because you have provide such a big growing service? Like, the world can't live without Amazon now, and it's been like that for a really long time. It's you have to replace Amazon in order to make,
Mm-hmm.
fill that gap. You get to that place, and as you're doing that, this is where you start to flip over from being bleeding money to being profitable. So do we have to be concerned with the fact that something that is making itself so commonplace, which is AI right now, we have to be concerned with the fact that they're bleeding money, or are they just going to bleed until they turn a profit? Like, I don't really know. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, how close was Amazon.com to being Pets.com? I don't.
I don't know. I have no idea.
That's the question, isn't it? Like, there's all these um, companies in the history of these different industries that have gone by the wayside. And then there's
Mm-hmm.
the example of Amazon, and we say, well, are all of these going to be Amazon? And the answer is probably no. I
Oh,
mean,
I see.
can
Like they're
Microsoft
unicorn.
afford to bleed money for a while? Yeah, sure. Can Google? Probably. Can OpenAI? That's a more open question,
Yeah, I don't know.
because it's a new company. We just saw this week, I think, a company called Build.ai, I think, that went out of business. That was an AI startup. And so
What was it called?
Build.ai, I think, was the website for it. It was a kind of
Hmm.
AI automation platform, and that went out of business.
Oh,
I'll check that's what it was actually called. I might be telling you that something went out of business that didn't. But
Okay,
yeah,
because I'm
I'm
like
pretty
trying to
sure
think of the name.
I'm pretty sure it was that. But
Okay.
the point is that who knows? I mean, the argument of, well, people would be charging $10,000 a month for something that could actually do what they say it would do. Like, okay, well, I know that Microsoft 365 Copilot saves me time every month. I believe, based on having looked at how much time it's saving me, that it's saving me more than $30 of time a month.
Mm,
If someone turned around and said that's going to cost $5,000, that would be a harder sell. So
right.
I think, is there anyone who's coming up with, hey, you should be paying $10,000 for this? Is there anyone that isn't coming at that from an angle? Probably not. I mean, I'm coming at it from an angle, but I don't know, Thurman. I think it's an interesting question. And I certainly haven't jumped from the $30 per month tier to the $250 a month tier yet. I don't
Mhm.
see the value in that jump yet. But maybe by the end of the year, I'll be saying, yeah, I'm spending $1,000 a month on AI services rather than a couple of $100 a month on AI services.
That's hard for me, man, because I'm just like, there's gonna be a time when the technology settles down and you can get it at a cheaper price. The thing I always talk about is, flat screen TVs, super expensive when they first came out. Now you can get you a really, really, really nice TV for like $300, maybe even less than that. You know what I mean? So where is the? I need that to come with AI, but like I always mention, I also need it to be practical. Like I want to see practical uses of AI, not like I got to go in there and do a whole lot of work to squeeze a little bit of juice out of it. I don't like that.
Mm,
I
mm,
would
mm.
rather you show me something that is ready for me to get cracking with it. So, I'm using a microphone here. This was just probably a bad example, but I got the microphone. I take the microphone, I plug one end of the cord into it, put the other cord into the other system, turn the volume up, mess with it a little bit. I'm good to go. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to put the mic together in order to then get use out of it. That is definitely a thing that applies to a lot of people. But to the typical business user, they want to plug the mic in and go. Matter of fact, they probably want somebody to just put the mic in front of them. Don't even plug it in and all that. So I'm looking for when it gets to the point where it's just basic like that and it's cheaper. You know what I'm saying? And I
Mm,
don't know
mm.
if them bleeding money or maybe just a few companies bleeding money. I don't even know if that is something to be concerned about or it's fine. Everything is gonna be fine. Because the OpenAI got the what, 500 billion from the government or something like that. So maybe they'll be
Yeah.
fine. Maybe the bleeding
I,
money is not a big deal
I
for
mean, I think
OpenAI.
this is something we need to keep looking at and just thinking about. So great conversation, Thurman. Where can
Absolutely.
people find out more about you and what you're up to this week?
Listen, check me out on LinkedIn. I'm always on LinkedIn having a good time over there. You know what I mean? At least for now. I don't know what the future brings, but Nick, I might be taking a page out of your book and leaning more into YouTube because YouTube is beautiful. You know what I'm saying? I'm seeing
YouTube is
some
beautiful.
good
Yeah.
things from YouTube. So what about you, Nick?
Well, go and connect with me on LinkedIn. Thurman told me how to post there every day, so I do. So there we go. That's all I got to say this week.
All right,
So
good.
until the next time, everyone.
All right.
Keep chatting with your AI assistant. It needs to get to know you.
Right.
All right, take care.